Welcome back to some of the best stories from r/TalesFromTechSupport. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's take a look at the first story. It's called Dinosaur Manager. I was a tier 1 phone jockey, and this was my first adult job after college. So you can imagine how surprised and nervous I was when one day I got an email with the subject line, "Forward, disable Facebook, now." It was written in all caps with 2 exclamation points. Inside there was a long message chain containing an extended rant from our marketing executive, sent to the CEO, replied to, forwarded to the CIO, replied to, forwarded to my manager, and then kicked down to me with no explanation. My manager did this kind of thing a lot. Rather than open a ticket in the ticketing system, he insisted we use a certain way, or explain anything in his emails. He would simply forward us an email chain of a conversation he'd been having with some store or department manager, some executive or some vendor, and we'd have to read through all of it to figure out what he wanted. This email was one of those, and since it had come from people up the chain from him, I had to read through all of his pathetic groveling and differential bootlicking to reach the part where he made his unqualified promises about what I'll do in how much time. Eventually, I surmised the following. The marketing manager is upset that his employees are spending work time on social media. He has decided that this is all IT's fault. He wants social media disabled on all computers. He sent this complaint to the CEO because it's not good enough to contact IT and open a ticket to get something done. He has to try to get someone fired while he's at it. We actually had RepSense, so I wrote up a ticket, opened up the admin console in RepSense, and added Facebook's URL to their blacklist. Done and done. I replied all to the message chain and let the executives know that we are good. Immediately I got hammered with replies from the CEO, my manager, and the marketing executive who had made the request. They all wanted to know why I disabled Facebook on their machines. Exercising all the restraint I had, I apologized and explained that when they said disable Facebook on all computers, I didn't realize that they meant for there to be exceptions to the rule. I grabbed one of our tier 3 guys and he had me set up Mac filtering in RepSense. We made a group for the executives and managers to be exempt from the social media blackout, and then blocked Twitter, Instagram, and all the other common social media sites while we are at it. Thinking the issue has now been properly dealt with, I updated the executives, who seemed placated, updated the ticket, and then closed it. 15 minutes later, a red-faced young woman from social media marketing appeared in the IT office. She was upset because she couldn't reach Facebook or Twitter. I gently explained that those had just been blocked at the request of her department's executive. But you're not supposed to block me. I'm a social media manager. It's my job to be on Facebook. Now I can't work. Hang on. I placed a quick speakerphone call to her manager and got his admin assistant. Can I speak with the manager? It's about the Facebook blackout he requested. He's pretty upset about that, of course. Can I speak to him? After a minute she got him on the line. Glad you finally got it right. Sir, social media marketing is in my office right now, so tell her to go back to work. Sir, she can't. She says it's her job to run the company's social media pages, and she can't work now because of the block. Do I have your permission to unblock her? The executive was silent for quite a long time. Then he asked, "You mean we are paying someone to be on Facebook? She works for your department, sir. Unblock her for now and tell her to come see me in my office." Okay. So I turned to look at her and she was already walking out. "Are you alright?" She turned back to me. "I'm fine. This is the 3rd time this month that this dinosaur has forgotten that I work here. I'm used to explaining my job to him." The next story is called Everything is Offline. You don't do any work on Friday in IT. If it goes wrong, you'll be there all weekend fixing it. So in the spirit of being careful, Friday afternoon drinks were a tradition. 4 p.m. Friday was BO o'clock, and as the resident only person not excited by Crown Lager, responsibility for arranging the drinks fell to me. no big deal, right? Except that this was the day that I finally got an unlimited account with the local liquor store. It would be billed to the company automatically. I wasn't going to waste it. And I did not waste it. Our small 10-person company got rip-roaringly drunk, like arrested for being outside in the state drunk. There were Jack Daniels cans stacked to the ceiling. Chips had fallen liberally to the floor. Someone couldn't find a bin and filed a chicken ring in the file cabinet. Under C for chicken. It was one of those drinking sessions where everyone is just a total mess. Around 9 PM, after 5 solid hours of partying, we broke off and headed into the night. I wandered down to a nearby bar and watched some bands play for an hour, downed another jug of beer and smiled to myself that the week had ended. Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ran outside, tripping up the stairs as I went, managed to steady myself against a signpost, and answered. It was the CEO. The primary and secondary root servers were down. I stood frozen in time for an instant, the same way a deer looks at the headlights of an oncoming car, and then asked him to repeat himself. Yes, both the root servers are down. The entire state is offline. Get in there now, fix it. Do whatever it takes. I cannot stress enough that these 2 servers were the most important thing our company had. They, in and of themselves, were the primary thing around which our business existed, and all other things were secondary to them. My state was by far the biggest, with some of the biggest ISPs and content providers in the country attached. And this was the first full network outage we'd ever had. And it was my problem. And I'd consumed enough alcohol that my blood could have been used as a fire accelerant. I yelled something and ran off in the direction of work. It was only when I bumped into the glass front doors before they opened that I started to realize how drunk I was. When the elevator arrived at my floor and I bumped into both sides of the hallway before making it to the door, I knew I was in trouble. That hallway was only 20 feet long, but it didn't matter. My wallet hit the card reader. I'd made it. Habits are a funny thing. You get so used to the noises, clicks, beeps and responses that you realize something's wrong in an instant. There was no response from the card reader. An error, surely. Interference. Something new in my wallet? I dug the card out, throwing my wallet on the ground and badged it on its own. Nothing. Not an access denied 6 beeps or a card format unrecognized 5 beeps. Nothing. The lights were on, but no one was home. A few feet away, the keypad for the alarm was lit up like a headlight convention. All the lights were on. The screen totally blacked out. No beeps for key presses. Just nothing. The blood drained from my face. The root servers were inside, suffering some unknown fate. Our customers probably getting more furious by the minute, and I could not open the door. I wasn't taking any more of the security system's crap. I was getting into this data center. Security system be damned. I didn't bother trying again. My tools, once again, were behind the locked door. And then the light went on over my head. I can't go through the door. I can't go around the door. I can't go under it. But can I go over it? This is the logic of a drunk engineer. Try all the dimensions. There was a chair that we left outside for people working outside the data center. So in my infinite wisdom, I dragged the chair over to the wall and lifted a ceiling tile. Unlike the data center, where the ceiling tiles were weighted down with hundreds of heavy cables, the office was free and clear, and the wall itself stopped at the ceiling. So, pushing the tile into the cavity between the suspended ceiling and the concrete, I hoisted myself up into the ceiling. This did not work as well as I'd hoped, because I was not very strong. I kicked and pushed off the wall, scrambling to push myself up onto what I now realize was a very thin wall. For those not familiar with a suspended ceiling, metal rods are drilled into the concrete block above, and a grid pattern hangs below it. Inside those grids are reek-like tiles, basically made of a combination of cardboard and plaster. Looking at the predicament I'd gotten myself into, it became apparent that the only things that were going to support my weight up here were the tie rods onto the concrete. So I'd hold onto the rods with my hands. and, lying prone in the ceiling, distribute the rest of my RAID along the horizontal connectors. I dropped down onto the file cabinet at the far end of the room, about 15 feet away. This plan was flawless, and it worked for about 6 of the required 15 feet, upon which point my hand slipped and I fell through the center of the ceiling tile, towards the floor below. By some insane miracle, I landed mostly on my feet, scrambling ungracefully to regain balance, coughing up ceiling tile dust and God knows what else. When the coughing stopped, I ran over to the security panel, pulled the power and plugged it back in. It beeped a single happy post beep and hummed to life, making normal sounds instead of the endless buzzing it had been making before. My access restored, I quickly found the problem. A circuit breaker had tripped, and due to a wiring error on the part of an electrician at some point, both root servers had been wired into the same circuit, rather than the different feeds on different USPs via different distribution boards that they were supposed to. With a dustpan and brush, I set about cleaning up the nightmare my dramatic entrance had caused. It was not a small mess. Ceiling tiles are about 5 feet by 2 feet, and this one had exploded. It took about an hour. After finally sweeping up all the mess, putting the ceiling tile I'd broken to get up there back together, and replacing the one I'd broken getting down, I rocked out the door, feeling smug that no one would be the wiser for my ceiling entrance, and I'd have a grand story to tell. Monday morning rolled around, and I was the last one in. My coworker Aaron stared at me. "What the heck did you do to my desk?" "What?" I walked into the office and stared in horror. I don't know what the heck I'd cleaned up, but it looked like someone had hit a bag of flour with a baseball bat. It was everywhere. How wasted was I? What did I spend an hour cleaning? And how in almighty crap did I diagnose an electrical circuit being miswired and split with no electrician tools of any kind? I have no idea, but what I did know was how to break in, so I documented the procedure and added it to the tech support wiki. The last story is called A Fast Job. This story happened when I first joined my current company, and while I was not the one that actually had to deal with the problem, I was bystanding and heard the juicy parts from my mentor himself. Exactly 2 days before a major festive celebration, we get a call from a user who is panicking because one of his equipment failed and production had come to a screeching halt. Now, I work in a company that services critical process equipment in a country with a distinct west half and east half, separated by the sea. We are based in the western half. The client was a major refining plant for the petroleum industry. As we normally do, we go through the usual troubleshooting steps. Did you turn this on? Is this connection active? But the only answer coming from the user was yes, 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 with nothing seemingly wrong. This went on for about half an hour, when suddenly our boss comes in. The client's head of production had just called him and was apparently livid. It turns out the machine had stopped working for more than an hour, and the production was severely interrupted until the problem got fixed. Now everyone was in panic. As every hour the production was interrupted, the client was losing money in the tens of thousands of dollars, and the client had the right to sue us for any damages that occur as a result of equipment downtime. Their manager was not happy that their internal team was not able to fix the problem, and the user was not making any headway in fixing the problem via phone. To resolve the issue, he demanded that support be performed immediately on site. First, it's the festive season. Second, they are across the sea. Traveling was a bit of a problem, but the manager said money was not an issue, and they would pay anything for immediate on-site support. Cue my mentor, who was handed the unsavory task of handling the emergency. Immediately he grabbed his tools and sped off to the airport to grab the next available flight. At the same time, his wife had to pack some clothes for him from home and rushed to pass it to him at the airport. Due to the festive season, Mentor didn't have choices for flights, so in the end he had to take a $1,000 business class flight. Normally, flights to where the client is located cost around $80. Upon arriving, Mentor was whisked from the airport with a driver, sent immediately to the refinery, and granted immediate security clearance to enter the plant. By this time, a good 6 hours or so had passed since we received the call, and it was well into the night. Greeting him in front of the equipment was the manager, the user, and various other senior management personnel, all anxious to see what the problem is. Mentor is a guy with no chill, and he was also the one originally speaking to the user on the phone. So, what is the problem? Wait, let me take a look. He starts to go through the normal troubleshooting checklists, but stops almost immediately. He asks the user, "Are you sure you checked everything I asked you to?" "Yes, everything, word for word." "Are you absolutely sure?" "Yes." "Do you remember what the third thing was that I asked you to check over the phone?" The user got irate. "Why does it matter? Just fix the problem." "The first thing we normally check is to make sure the PC is turned on." He points at the CPU LED indicator. "The second thing we check is to make sure the equipment is on." He points to the machine LED. "The third thing," he brings his hand to a gas control valve, rotates it, and a loud hiss is heard as the gas line pressure rises and the equipment beeps, "is to make sure the gas is on." Everyone in the room was speechless. After more awkward silence, they thanked him for his effort. By the time Mentor finished his dinner, it was well past midnight, so he checked himself into a hotel for the night. The next day he went back to the airport and found out that all flights were completely sold out for the next 4 days due to the festive traveling. He called my boss to inform him that he was basically stranded, and my boss just coolly said to him, "Well, consider this as having a free holiday paid by the client." So he checks into the most luxurious hotel in the area and spends the next 4 days basically on vacation before coming back to work. In total, we billed the client around $10,000 for the flights, hotel, emergency arrangements, allowances, etc. All for 10 seconds to check LEDs and turn a valve. This is not including the losses from halting the production. User was transferred out of his role not too long after this incident. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.